All right, well, good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to day 3 of the World Vape Show 2022 Dubai Talks. Now, in this session, we're going to be talking about building your brand for your vape business. So we're going to be taking a look at things like compliance, regulation, cost, and how to connect with your consumers. So I'm going to ask each of my panelists here today to introduce themselves, and we're going to take you through a couple of brief presentations, and then we're going to open it up into a panel discussion. If you do have any questions, please feel free to raise your hand, and we'll bring a microphone over for you. So without further ado, if you could start introducing yourself.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Hannah Uzukel, and I'm working with SGS, dealing with product compliances of various chemical scope.
Perfect, thank you.
Hello, everybody. My name is Omar. I am the owner of Extra Vape Disposable. We are today going to talk about how you can build your own brand and create it legitimately with failing with all regulations in here in Middle East. Thank you.
My name is John Dunn, the Director General of the UK Vaping Industry Association, and I'm going to be moderating the panel here for you today.
Hi, I'm Lee Bryan, Managing Director of Arcus Compliance, one of the leading compliance companies for the industry.
Hi guys, I'm Sam, or you might know me as the Vaping Bogan on YouTube. I do reviews for hardware and vape products.
Perfect. So we're going to start off the session with a couple of short presentations. So if we could please take the stage for the first one.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Hannah, and I'm working with SGS for more than 5 years, handling product compliances of various chemical scope with an industrial experience of 9 years in the field of regulatory affairs. Today, I would be speaking about the regulatory requirements, electronic nicotine product standards, and the certification requirements. To give a brief introduction about the company, SGS is a Swiss-based multinational company with headquarters based in Geneva. SGS is world's leading and most preferred compliance partner across the industry for inspection, testing, verification, and certification. SGS is notified body and approved certification body by various government authorities and regulatory authorities in the region of UAE, Saudi, Oman, Kuwait, Africa, and GSO. We are accredited for the listed ISO standards for all our services. We also provide food safety certifications and provide training globally for the listed quality certifications in the food industry. Our laboratory is accredited to ISO 17025 with the latest equipment and experienced person in the analysis of chemical, microbiological, petrochemical, and environmental scope. We provide system integrated support for companies and effectively manage key accounts in e-commerce and physical trade. In this slide, we can see we provide our conformity assessment programs in various regions. As we all are aware, there are regulatory requirements to be met by the product before trading. In UAE, electronic nicotine products are regulated by the federal authority MOIAT, and they have issued below listed standards to which strict compliance is required. This regulation is in force since 2019, and they have appointed SGS as a notified body to carry out registration. The main product standard UAE.S 5030, it covers the requirements for electronic nicotine products like the product definition, general requirements, mandatory labeling markings, health warnings, requirements for testing, restriction of ingredients in the e-liquid. The next standard, 62321, it covers the restrictions and the limitations of various hazardous chemicals in the electrical devices. Hazardous chemicals like mercury, lead, cadmium, chromium, polybrominated biphenyls, and phthalates. The next standard, 60335-1, it covers the technical requirements, testing requirements for electronic devices. 62133, 60086, it covers the requirements for the device battery. Lastly, 1363, it covers the requirements for plug. As mentioned, strict compliance to all the standards is mandatory as per the authority. We all have this question in mind, what type of products are regulated? So in this slide, we see the type of electronic nicotine products covered under the UAE standard scope. Electronic vape products that do not contain tobacco, electronic vape products with or without nicotine, heated tobacco products, either processed or unprocessed, heated by an electronic device without combustion. Below we have listed the type of certificates required for different type of products, namely the device certificate, ROHS certificate, label certificate, and the product certificate. In order to register the products, there are few technical requirements and other legal document requirements that needs to be submitted to the authority. Namely, the importer or the trader must have a UAE trade license with the activity of electronic cigarette trading covered. Along with that, the trademark registration document and the letter of authorization in case you are the importer or trader. Other technical documents such as for label certification, mandatory marking as listed in the standards that we discussed in the previous slide is required. For device certification, there are test reports and mandatory markings to be there on the product. In this slide, we can see the supplementary references that the importer or the manufacturer should comply in order to prepare an e-liquid for different additives, flavors, electronic device, batteries, and plug. Lastly, it would be for the nicotine, water, glycerol requirements as per the pharmacopoeia to be compliant. If there is any further requirements or any clarifications, questions you have, you may write to us in the below listed email ID. All your questions will be taken care by our technical team and we will respond back to you as soon as possible. Thank you.
Thank you.
Omar.
Hello, everyone. My name is Omar. I'm the owner of Extra Vape company. We are based in US brand. We started in 2016 and we established the brand in 2019. We have created the first disposable in 1500 buff when it was everyone at 300 buffs, and that's what the market was at. We were the first company that we came up with 5 ml. We have started from the state, from vape business 2013 as doing vape business. We created the brand, then we started to move it to, okay, sorry, how I move this? Okay, we start to make the brand, we start to provide it to the market from the state. We went to all 50 states. until regulation, FDA start to hit banning flavors, everything. We moved the head office from US to Dubai. We started now from here. We compliant with all regulations as required in the government. We have went to Europe market, Russian market, South Africa, and we still have in the state, in where is that still we can sell flavored tobacco. We have won an award from the Vapor Round from UK in 2021 that we are the best disposable and the upcoming brands for the industry. We have got a lot of advising that how to create the brand. We always make sure that we get the best e-liquid with the best device, with making sure that the quality maintained always the same for requirement that matches with all that the testing which each country that required. We establish in so many countries so far. We try to have it always with the, I forgot, what is this? Yeah. We always try to make the marketing and always focusing on brands that above the age of the country that we're working with. We're starting to do a lot of help to stop smoking, switch to vape or to electronic cigarette. We have developed as an extra brand with other brands in the industry that we help them to make it disposable, help them to provide more quality product with the best possible flavored. We also fight for helping people to quit smoking. We are with agencies in the state, like Arizona, I forget the name of the legit name, that we are investors to help people quit smoking, switch to vape, or quit smoking at all. We are registered in UAE since 2020. We have applied for a lot of certificate, paperwork that they ask for. We put the customer on the first page that they are our priority, our consumers, that we provide them the best quality product. Okay, thank you very much. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Omar.
I should prepare paper.
It's okay, no problem, man.
I'm not preparing it at all.
You did good.
I didn't prepare nothing.
Okay, so one of the things that we've heard, I think, that's consistent through all of the talks that we've heard over the last couple of days is that having a compliant product that's tested, that's reliable,
Yes.
and that's compliant with the local regulations is really important. But Lee, you find, you deal with an awful lot of brands, both, in the UK and around the world. What do you find is the biggest challenge for brands when they're trying to learn how to be compliant or trying to keep on the right side of regulation?
I think the main issue that we found in our experience of working in the industry is that the pioneers of the vape industry, they weren't chemists, they wasn't accountants, they were entrepreneurs. They knew how to take a product to market, they knew how to brand a product, they were good at marketing. And pre-regulation, that was pretty much all you needed. And we've seen the progression of the TPD, and it's taken, in Europe, maybe 4 years before we really started to see enforcement. So I think the education process for those guys was, they had a lot of leniency. What we're seeing here locally, enforcement is cracking down a lot quicker. The lead time, the education that the competent authorities have gone through has been that much quicker. Perhaps through liaison with European agencies, the 50/30 bill is essentially a gold-plated version of the TPD. We know that there's been liaison there, so perhaps that's why it's quicker. I think there was an ignorance perhaps around a lot of brands, certainly brands that were marketed in Europe, that all they thought that they really needed to do was have a TPD registration, an ECID. There's a whole gamut of other regulations that are going to impact the products, whether it's liquid or device. As Henna just mentioned, some of the ones that impact the products across the region here. So it's not easy. It's not an easy thing for these entrepreneurial guys to do. What we've noticed in the 5 years that we've been running is that the companies and the brands that have hired in professional support, experienced support, whether it be in finance or compliance, of the ones that have accelerated, and the ones that haven't adopted and recruited well have fallen by the wayside or even disappeared.
And Sam, you deal with kind of a different area of this business, right?
Yeah.
How have you seen things develop? Obviously trying to promote products online, it's getting a little bit more difficult in some parts of the world.
Yeah.
And in the UAE here is a little bit more sensitive, right?
Yeah.
In this market. So how do you think things have changed for you, and how do you see things changing in the next couple of years?
Yeah, it's almost like we're kind of under attack on the online side of things, particularly as a YouTuber. Recently we've seen YouTube algorithms picking up websites from packaging. We've been told we're not allowed to promote a website because that's directly linking to the sale of a tobacco product or a controlled substance in YouTube's eyes. And so we haven't been doing that for years. But recently their algorithms have been picking up websites on the back of a package and pinging us for promoting the sale of a product, which we're clearly not doing. So it's become really tricky online as a YouTuber to make sure that we're not getting ourselves into an area of breaching their community guidelines. So we can't show any websites on packaging whatsoever, and it's quite nervous now. You're just like waiting for that email from YouTube to say you've got a strike, which is really frustrating because as a reviewer, we're just there to educate people on a product. We're not trying to sell the product, particularly for myself, having not been paid by a company to even show a product, to then have to worry about YouTube, getting us in trouble. It's frustrating because it's a harm reduction product. We're just trying to educate people on that and give them the info that they need to make a consumer choice. And we're being, quite unfairly, I think, targeted by YouTube's algorithms. So yeah, it's a frustrating and nerve-wracking period at the moment.
Absolutely. And Omar, you're trying to market your brand here in the UAE. What difficulties do you find, or what advice do you give to brands that are looking at their packaging and the imagery that they use to try and be a little bit cognizant of the environment that they're in?
Okay. First, we should not use anything that attractive to kids, more colorful, make the device look like legit product, simple and easy as a packaging. Because I believe if you have so much colors, cartoons, that not going to help the brand to sell more. It's going to make it not selling. Because here, most of the people that they smoking or vaping, they are more adult. To market for these guys, you try to go with hookah places, clubs, that you see the environment that people on the age, they can go and see. You can sign in with a lot of, there's so many like after party place that you can go and promote your brand. You will see only adults. We cannot go behind kids and teenagers. We can use some promoters that they are professionals and all their reviewers is adults. On marketing wise, on YouTube, we also use a team that they are known for adult, that they're watching them, what is the new. That's how we do the marketing in here. That's what.
And is there any specific restrictions in the UAE on what you can and cannot promote?
Yes, and yes. You cannot promote for cigarette directly. You cannot promote for people to tell them, hey, smoke this. You always need to mention, if you are a smoker, I advise that. But you cannot say, please try this or buy this. That means you're promoting for something, maybe people watching you, not even smokers. You just advise that if you're smoking a cigarette, you should try to switch to vape. You should try, it's less harmful. Nicotine is not going to kill you. Nicotine only addicted to you. Cigarette is what killing you, smoking. Like in the end, we all know vape have only flavoring, only the nicotine that what's you need get you addicted. Like that's the most way, and you need always to have your warning when you do any marketing.
And Henna, you know, you deal with a lot of brands here in the UAE and the region. What do you think is the biggest mistake or the top couple of mistakes that you see brands making when they try to enter the market?
Probably if it's a renowned brand, they will have most of the documents, like the trademark registration. That is a primary document required along with the trade license. Usually mistakes, if you address, it would be there on the packaging. Like this, there would be specific names that cannot be used, like as
Yes.
you mentioned. You cannot use terms which is promoting the e-cigarette in the market. And you cannot even use terms which will portray that it is beneficial to the health.
Okay.
So these would be some common mistakes that we encountered in the past.
Okay, sounds very interesting. Do we have any questions from the audience for our panelists by any chance? No? Okay. You know, looking at the show, I think today, I think there's a big difference between this show and kind of what we saw 12 months ago, right?
Yes.
We see a lot of the imagery, I think, has got a little bit more adult. Where do you see the industry going here within the next 6 to 12 months? Do you see it growing even more?
I believe it, yes. It's going to be growing because lately now the government is supporting the legit brands, only who is compliant to be in the market. They trying to close everywhere that you can get in the black market ways because they want more people. They like to know what is the product been selling in the country. You have to be compliant. Your juice have to be on point. There's something inside your juice is not allowed. There's a specific size that you're allowed to sell, a specific way of packaging that you're allowed to show it to the customer. You must have your warning. You must have all this. What I see it's going to be more growing officially because when you make, same when you're raising a kids, you're raising it in the right way, it will grow. But if you leave it to do what he wants, he will fail.
Absolutely.
Yes.
And we've heard reports that the authorities here have been kind of cracking down on the illegitimate business. Lee, what have you heard in that respect?
We've heard stories, albeit unconfirmed, of raids on shops and warehouses and already significant fines being made for retailers and distributors bringing in unregistered illegal products to this market. And to be honest, in our experience, you know, we haven't really seen that happen in Europe yet. So if the competent authorities were already cracking down, 2 years, 2.5 years into a regulated landscape, it doesn't bode well for the illicit traders. A mantra that as a company we've been saying to our clients and to anybody who'll listen, to be honest, is that you guys need to be taking compliance as seriously as you do marketing. I'm not suggesting you need to set the same budget, but it's equally important in a regulated industry as it is getting your product out there and selling. It's a lot cheaper to get a compliant product onto the market than it is to get a non-compliant product off the market.
Absolutely. And you know, in our other talks over the last couple of days, we've heard a lot about the costs involved in bringing a product to market here and how they can be quite excessive. Do you think that's kind of leading to more of this illicit trade, or do you think there's something that we can kind of do to bring that back into line?
Like as a cost-wise, I believe in same cost you paying to get your product not right way, it will cost you less to get it legit. It's safer to sell it. As he mentioned, now government is cracking down on everyone that having product is not registered. When you are registered, you're good to go. You can sell it. every company that registered, the pricing is matching, similars, because they all pay the same fees, they all pay the same excise. They have like, the numbers, it's all equal out. But when you're going in the black market, you cannot know really what is the price because everyone costs different. For that, always, when you regularize it, it's better, safer, and for long term.
Absolutely. I think one of the keys to that as well is knowing what's in the product, right?
Yes.
I think that's where the regulation really, for our industry, is most important, is making sure that what people are putting into their bodies is actually
100%.
very good for them. And I think that's where, you know, services like yours, Hannah, really come into play, right? So what is a brand looking at, you know, when they're bringing a product to market? What type of costs are they looking at to bring a single product to market?
I'm not an expert in order to advise the specific cost, but I can guide through like what would be the cost incurred. There would be a specific cost with respect to product certifications. There would be cost incurred for testing, that would be separate. And there's something called as tax stamp to be there on the product, for which the importer has to directly deal with the FTA. So there are certain costs for the FTA as well.
Okay. So it's a kind of a complicated process, right?
No?
No?
It's not complicated.
Like as long you have, for example, for any brand, he want to come to a legit industry, he must have all the required tests anyways. To apply for TBD, to apply for FDA, you must have same required IC test, IE test, all these tests should be have it already. Only the liquid, you must test your liquid before you bring it to any country to make sure this liquid is healthy, good to be used. When you have all your tests, you only apply to get the license. There's only something that here they do it differently, that you have to have a certificate for your label and the certificate for the liquid separate, then you damage those two to get the final certificate.
Okay.
I think they should have only one certificate for that, as long as they get in all the tests together. Like you pay double the fees.
Okay.
Yeah.
So they can make kind of simplify the process a little
Yes.
bit, right?
Because they get you a certificate for the packaging separate, then they give you a certificate for the liquid separate, then you damage those two to get the final certificate, then you go and apply for FTA certificate.
And what do they look at when they're certifying your packaging? What type of things are they looking for?
They make sure there's some words doesn't mention on it.
Okay.
There's some names not allowed to be put in on the packaging. The way of the warning must be 50% and up of the package. It's have to have on the both side, English and Arabic.
Okay.
There's some warnings about for the ages, must be over the age. There should be the distributor who import the product, his information on the package, because he's the responsible of this device or this liquid in the country. They're not going to go after the manufacturer, for example, any brand, and saying, hey, you shipped this wrong. No, they go after the distributor. You are responsible of this product because you are the one who imported to this country.
Exactly. So it's the responsible person here
Yes.
in the UAE.
Yes.
Okay. Well, that makes total sense, right?
Yes, 100%.
Absolutely. And then kind of going back to the review situation, because I find that fascinating, right? A lot of people don't understand the kind of the work that you do, or they say that it's maybe attracting a younger demographic or maybe younger followers. How do you feel about that with the work that you do?
I mean, it depends on what sort of social media presence you have. For myself, as a YouTube reviewer, that's definitely not the case. I can look at my demographic, and plus YouTube now are age restricting all of our videos. So every video that I post on YouTube pretty much instantly gets age restricted, which means you have to be, or at least you've said on your computer you're 18, which I think is about as much as you can do. Past that, it's up to the parents to make sure that they're monitoring what their kids are watching on the internet. But we get age restricted, so those videos are not going to pop up on people's feeds unless they've registered their age as 18 and over. So for me, we're already being regulated to prevent that sort of marketing to kids sort of thing. And we're very obviously providing a consumer service. If you look at even any of the reviewers, they're not there saying, you should start vaping, by this kids or anything like that. We're there to give people a consumer perspective on a product so they can make an informed decision on what product's going to suit their style of vaping. But there is obviously people on, and I think TikTok's been clamping down on things like this because, when you've got people doing TikTok videos with 10 pods in their mouth, that's not helping anybody quit smoking. That's clearly there for clicks and views, and yes, it's going to be seen by a bunch of kids, and it's not the image that the industry needs. So, unfortunately, I think it's taken some of these platforms to regulate it rather than the industry, kind of doing the right thing on its own, because, we're in an age now where people want views and they want attention, and if they can find a way to do that with vaping, then sometimes they will. But yeah, we're seeing that across most platforms now, that they are sort of regulating against the advertising or the, influencing kids into doing it. So I don't think it's really an issue. I don't think that the youth vaping epidemic that the authorities keep going on about, I don't think that's due to TikTok and YouTube videos.
Yeah, I know. I probably TikTok's the bane of my life at the moment, I can tell you, in the UK. Because the problem with things like that is it may seem innocent to do it, but the ramifications are huge. A good example for me is had a news agency called me about 2 weeks ago talking about these hundreds of reports of nosebleeds and bumps being caused by vaping disposable geek bars, know. And I went, hang on a second, did you check with the MHRA on that? Because they record all of these things. They're like, no. I said, well, they don't exist, But the problem is regulators see these things, they believe it. They look at the demographics of things like, TikTok and things, and it is a very young demographic. So if brands are listening out there, please don't put your brands on TikTok. That would be the advice I would give you.
TikTok is gross to begin with. Let's not put our vaping industry in there because it's not good. It's not good for anybody. I don't even think it's going to help you do sales anyway. You're looking to hit your target market, which is smokers. The TikTok thing, I think, is pretty. It's getting shut down by TikTok as it is. But yeah, it'd be great if brands can be responsible.
Okay.
Some internal, responsibility would be great from the industry. Just, don't send your products to TikTok influencers.
Absolutely. Now, Lee, you've seen many, many years of this industry, and you've seen brands come and go, and you've seen marketing imagery change. What do you see as the biggest trend over the last 2 or 3 years with the brands that you deal with?
That's a good question. I think there's been a lot of toning down of the cartoons and more sober fonts. A lot of the brands that we deal with were the bigger brands in the early days that, have had to tone down their branding. And I think that's perhaps more pressure from within the industry. The UK VIA is a great example of how the industry is self-policing in the UK. And there's peer pressure within the groups to comply. So I think that the pressure has come from within the industry rather than the competent authorities. And obviously the UK VIA is not just UK brands, there's a lot of global brands in there. So it's been really interesting to see that development in our country, but with a global perspective. I think that the presence of a good trade association in all of the industry, in all of the markets, all of the regulated markets for sure, would help in self-policing and ensuring that all of the markets experience that positive impact.
I think we've seen quite interesting examples of that over the last couple of years, where you've got markets like the UK that's very robust, it's very vape friendly, but highly regulated, and then you have the US market that struggled with regulation and went a little bit off the rails, and now the FDA is kind of taking control and frankly messing up the market a little bit, you know, so.
Yeah, I think that the FDA took a really harsh stance in their regulation. It wasn't as clear as the TPD, and there wasn't as much guidance. Is this still on?
Yep.
Yeah. There wasn't as much guidance from the regulators to the market, which is, you know, we're 2 years into some of the first submissions for the PMTAs, and still no independent vaping company has got their marketing authorization. Obviously, the TikTok issue, they're much stronger on the use or complete banning, if you like, of using social media on that side of things.
Yeah, I think that's right. I think, you know, if we don't start self-policing the industry itself, the regulators are going to do it for us.
Yeah.
And I think especially in a market like this that's very sensitive, right? They've taken a huge leap of faith, I think, by allowing vaping to be regulated here. So I think brands really need to be cognizant of that when they are putting products into the market here, that it is a tenuous situation. Do we have any questions from the audience? We've got about 10 minutes left. Anybody? All right. Do we have any final thoughts from the panel on, you know, if you were to give that one nugget of advice to brands here in the UAE, you know, what would that be? What do you think, Hannah?
Could you please come?
If you had that one piece of advice, that one thing that would be the most important thing for a brand to do here in the UAE, what do you think that would be?
Strict compliance to all the product standards.
There we go. What about you, Omar? What do you think would be the biggest nugget of information that you would give to a brand here?
Make sure that you provide the best quality
Best
to the
quality.
market.
So best compliance, best quality. Lee, what about you?
It's going to be my mantra. It's going to be take compliance as seriously as you do your marketing.
Absolutely. And then Sam, you're going to get the last word. What do you think?
I guess try and do something different. We see too much just copycatting in the industry, and it's lazy. You know, disposables for one. I'm not a big fan of them to begin with, but they all look the same. They all have the same flavors, and it might work on some level, but try and find something that's a little bit different and unique, and obviously good. But yeah, just try and do your own thing rather than just going, oh, well, that works, and let's just copy-paste. I think there's a lot of that in the industry, and we could do with a little bit more sort of spread and diversity of branding.
Yeah, because I think, you know, if you look back at the early days of shows, right, the people came to the shows to see that innovation, to see that new trend.
Yeah.
Whereas what we're seeing now is, as you said, it's kind of the same.
Cut and paste, cut and paste, cut and paste, you know.
Exactly.
We'll make a disposable that's yellow and shiny, and it has the same shape as all of the others, and it's mango.
I think a lot of that is what we're seeing is the cyclical nature of it. You know, in the early days of the industry, we had Cigar Lights and the Ego type products where everything was made in China, liquids as well. We've gone full circle now. We've gone through the mods and the liquids made stateside in Europe. The disposables now, everything, the liquid is made in China, the disposables are made in China, but the consumers are a lot more educated than they were in vaping now, which means these products are more available and faster sale in the convenience sector.
Absolutely. Well, I'd like to thank my panelists. I think we're going to wrap it up there. Thank you very much for participating today. Thank you to the audience for coming along and listening to us. And the next session will be starting in about 20 minutes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Anytime.